Hey guys, welcome to the Digit Squad channel, and really apologize for the delay in getting this live stream started. We had a little bit of a technical issue, so yeah, we're here now. Sorry about that. Let me just get things rolling. Okay, so we have two people who've already joined us, and I'm hoping that there'll be a few more who do join in very quickly so that we can get stuff rolling. Now, today's AMA is all about choosing the right laptop for your college. Now, a lot of us go to college and we rely on a laptop basically for everything from taking notes, doing homework, or de-stressing, entertainment, watching movies, everything. The laptop is sort of the central part of a college student's life. I know it was when I went to college. My laptop and I were inseparable. In fact, was a very funny story. Though there was a fire alarm that went off in my dorm's building, and everybody ran. Like this is around like 3:30, 4 in the morning, and everybody just got up out of their beds and ran down. And I was the only one who ran down with my laptop. So I mean, I understand the importance of a laptop for a college student, and how important it is to choose the right one as well. So that being said, let's take some questions, or if you guys have any questions about what kind of laptops to go for, etc., etc. That's what I'm here for. I will of course give you some guidelines, basic ones to choose depending on what kind of course you're in, because um, there's no point of you going for like a very high end laptop if you're not in an arts college, like if you're not doing film studies or if you're not doing architecture or something like that, right? You don't need the high end stuff. And similarly, students who are in something that's like mechanical drawings or are doing some 3D modeling and things like that, makes no sense for them to go with an i3 or an i5 type machine. So we're going to go over all of the options. We're going to go over what are the various permutation combinations, budget, needs, etc., etc., so that you guys can make the right decisions when it comes to buying the college laptop. So I'm just going to wait for a few minutes. Not a few minutes, in fact, people have started to come in. So let's just quickly go ahead with that. All right. Okay. Abhineet Mishra, thanks for kicking off the session, by the way. Difference between i5 10 Gen versus i7 8th Gen, which is better? Um, so, between the two processors, it really depends. I still use an i7 8th Gen laptop. Like, I have an Asus ROG Scar 2, and that's running a i7 8750H. It also really depends on what the classification of the processor is. Like if you've got a 10 gen i5, which is an 8 series processor, versus if you're looking at i7, which is a U series or a Y series processor, it's probably better to go with the i5. So 8 series is like the performance grade chips. Y series, U series tend to be more power efficient, and therefore they give you longer battery life for sure, but they also therefore give you less power in terms of throughput, render times, things like that. So Abhineet Mishra, if you could tell me a little bit more about the components in this laptop, I could give you a better idea. But if the i7 is the H series variant, I would say go with the i7. Whichever is the 8 series, just go with that. Basically, let's just leave it at that. The i5 10 Gen is also a very beefy chip. With 10th generation, Intel has gone back to bringing hyper-threading across the board. So, you get X number of cores and twice the number of threads. So, it all works out basically in favor of the consumer. So, look for 8 series. If they're both not 8 series processor, then you could look at something. Even then, you could probably go with a nice i5 or the 10th gen chips. They're pretty amazing. So, that's a good option to go with. Samir Mitha, what is the SAR value of what? I do not know, and therefore I shall not answer. Um, But the SAR value of laptops, I don't think you should really be concerned about. They don't have a SAR value. Okay, so we've got a number of people coming in, going up. Now let's go over, a typical college student scenario. What are the things to look for in a laptop? I mean, this is something you're going to be carrying around with you all day, every day. You're going to be stuck to it for practically 18 hours a day, if not more. So you want something that's sturdy, and if you're going to be using this to do college assignments, you want to make sure that the keyboard is also very comfortable to type on. So instead of just going online and ordering the laptop that's the cheapest or meets your spec requirement, I do recommend you go to a store and you see if you can, get your hands on the actual laptop you want to buy and type on it. Of course, like, it takes some time to get adjusted to a new keyboard, but you will be able to tell by typing on it whether you're going to be comfortable or not. Like, for example, with things like travel, the space between the keys, do you want a full size numpad, or are you okay with a squeezed numpad? Do you not need a numpad at all? Things like that. So they do factor in. Okay. um, Mohammed, you say the 8th gen i7 is a little more power hungry than the i5. Yeah, that's true. Like, the i5 will strike the right balance between power, again, depending on whether it's an 8 series or, the Y or U series, because that's the 10 nanometer process that the i5 is built on. And then you've got the bigger one, the if it's an 8 series, then it's a 14 nanometer. So there are a lot of things that to consider. But when in doubt, go with the latest, of course. It may not be like the highest and the fastest render times you want, or like, but it'll be very good. The 10 gen chips from the benchmarks that we've been seeing early on, things look very promising. And it's not just with Intel, even Ryzen. Like, you guys really, really need to keep your eyes open for Ryzen this year. So, okay. Samir Mita, new Ryzen 4 series gaming laptops look interesting. Can you talk more about that? Yes. So Ryzen, AMD sort of did something with the laptop and desktop processor that only smartphone companies were so far capable of. They manufactured their chips using the 7 nanometer chipset. Now, what that allows is that they've packed more transistors into it, and for the same amount of cores, same amount of threads, same kind of clock speeds as well, they're still able to push out better performance, um, in comparison to not just their own older chips, but also in comparison to Intel. So, for example, the 4800H and the 4800HS have been, basically everybody's been raving about it. If you look online for reviews, people are just going crazy. I would very, very strongly suggest that. Well, we're in the lockdown right now, so it's not really like you can buy a new laptop today. But once the lockdown lifts, we know that manufacturers are going to try and get these machines out as quickly as possible, because, well, technically they should have been out already. Um, so you're gonna want to wait till you can get your hands on the Ryzen machines as well. So just sort of compare the two and then go with your needs. And Samir, you talk about the Ryzen 4 series. What you're talking about is like a Ryzen 7. The 4800H and the HS is the Ryzen 7. The Ryzen 5 and the Ryzen 3 are also going to be pretty impressive. In fact, AMD, for their desktop, I know this is not a laptop, but for the desktop, just announced the Ryzen 3 3100 and the 3300X. Abroad, both the processors are under 10K, 4 cores, 8 threads, 3.6 gigahertz roughly base clock, 4.1 gigahertz boost clock, and a TDP of 65 watts. So very, very, very impressive spec for a processor of that size. So we're just going to leave it at that for now, since that's desktop. But Intel and AMD both this year will have impressive chips in laptops. Pratik Kumar, you want to know between the Legion Y540 i7 9 Gen or ROG i7 9 Gen? Ooh, okay. Hmm. This is a tricky one. Very honestly, the advantage of the Legion is, that laptop looks like a laptop. It would be perfect for any kind of situation. You can game on it, you can take it into the classroom without people getting distracted by it. It fits into a office scenario beautifully. The ROG laptop, on the other hand, still looks a lot more gamerish, and if you're in class or if you're in a meeting or something of that sort, you'll have to turn off the RGB and etc etc. You'll have to do all of that. So but between both of them, here's the thing: look for a laptop between the two that offers you dual channel memory. I know with Asus, there was this period of time where they were saying, okay, yeah, this got 16 gigs of memory, but it was a single 16 GB DIMM that they would put in there, so it's not even dual channel. In fact, the Scar 2 that I was using is also only houses 116 GB stick, so it's not dual channel. So just make sure that whatever you get is dual channel. Then they're both very good laptops. Both of the companies know how to make really good, solid, reliable laptops. So you can't go wrong with either. Just choose whichever fits your budget and which fits your specification requirement. Okay. Shikhar Bhardwaj, recent my thoughts on recent AMD CPUs versus 10 gen Intel chips. Wow, I just gave a whole spiel on it. I think both Intel and AMD will be doing some very impressive things this year. AMD is going to do it on its own merit because they've made these amazing 7 nanometer processors, and they like we've seen some early numbers. We're in fact getting reviews also, and they're just downright impressive. Intel, on the other hand, needs a little bit of help from some other partners like Nvidia, and they're making sure that the Intel chips end up with only high-end GPUs in laptops. So there's that little bit of it's taking both Intel and Nvidia to basically take on AMD this year. So it'll be very interesting. There are distinct advantages to going with Intel over AMD in certain scenarios, versus going AMD over Intel. So we can get into that later if you guys want. What are the specific reasons to choose one over the other? Okay. Oh, Amit Singh, the pricing of Ryzen 4 based laptops, not a clue. Abroad, for example, the Zephyrus G14 starts at about, not starts, but it's at about $1,400. But what that's going to cost in India is anybody's guess. I mean, taxes, duties, profits, whatever you may call it. I can't really comment on that. Um, Hmm. MacBook Air 2017 versus the VivoBook S15 for BTech Computer Science. Okay. If you are doing BTech in computer science, you're probably going to want to run a lot of your code and your compilers and things like that. My experience on the Mac OS with those sort of things is very limited. I don't know if you'll get all of the flexibility, but what I do know is that when you go with a Windows based system, you get all the flexibility, like hands down. You have everything at your disposal. So stick with the Windows machine, and therefore stick with the VivoBook S15. Do make sure it has a solid, like it's got a good SSD in there. That's all. Um, Mohammed, you say Swift 3 series will be updated before Gen Ryzen. Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of machines will be getting updated to 4th Gen Ryzen, but here's the thing. With the regular series, Intel and AMD are neck to neck in competition, and AMD is probably going to, sort of get move ahead of Intel as the year ends. But when it comes to gaming machines, we're seeing a very interesting trend. None of the OEMs so far have committed to an AMD variant of their gaming laptops with a high-end GPU. In fact, Asus is the only one that said, okay, the G14 can come with up to a 2060, and that's it. So nothing higher than the 2060 is paired with an AMD Ryzen processor, which is really weird because when you look at the Ryzen 9 with and the Ryzen 9 4900H, the 4900HS, you see that like a 1650 Ti is being paired with 4800H, and is just very weird. So there is that unfair treatment that AMD is getting, that nobody is willing to pair a high-end GPU with an AMD chip. But at the end of the day, I think AMD's machines and their CPUs have spoken for themselves. Like there was a point of time where AMD processors were selling like almost 3 times as fast as Intel ones in the last year and a half. So I think it'll be a very interesting year. Machine learning compatibility for AMD and Nvidia. Well, if you've got an RTX, RT, yeah, RTX, sorry. If you got an RTX GPU from NVIDIA, then your machine learning tasks will be handled way better because they have tensor cores built in and they sort of accelerate all machine learning tasks. With AMD discrete GPUs, that's not the case. So, NVIDIA will be a better bet there. Um, Samir Meeta, best laptop for 1080p 60 FPS gaming, medium to high settings, should last 3 to 4 years. Samir, just a heads up, this is like choosing the right laptop for college, not gaming. But since you asked, um, you would probably want to stick with something that's got a 2060 or 2070 at this point, at least an i7 and 16 gigs of RAM. To be very honest, the Scar 2 that I'm using is almost 2 years old. It's got an i7 8750H. It's got a 1060, in fact, for the GPU, 16 gigs of RAM, and an SSD. So simple. It's a very simple, fairly simple setup, 144 hertz display. And even on that, right now, I can run most popular AAA titles at about 80 to 90 FPS. So I know for a fact that in the next 2 years, I can go, till 60 FPS easily at 1080p with high settings. And in fact, it's not just high, like you can leave the settings at high but turn only certain aspects to a lower setting to get more frame rate. So if you're willing to tweak around, you can definitely squeeze a lot more out of it. One of the most important things about laptops, Samir, since you brought it up, as they age, um, the performance does sort of slow down, and that's because they're not able to dissipate heat effectively enough. That comes from the fact that there's a lot of dust buildup that happens inside the chassis. Sometimes, you may also have to take a look at your thermal paste on the IHS. So if you guys are handy enough, you need to take your laptop apart, just give it a good cleaning. And if you're really daring, you could also pull off the heat pipes, clean the CPU, clean the GPU, reapply the thermal paste, and bam, you're back to good thermals again. And once the thermals are in check, then performance also boosts up. So there's that. Um, Gaurav Singh Malik, which would be the cheapest option with RTX 2070 or 2080? I'm assuming you're talking about a laptop with an RTX 2070 or 2080, and not really sure what the pricing is going to be like right now because um, a lot of sorry about that. A lot of retailers have taken their listings offline, and 2070 laptops generally start at about 1.8 ish. What I do know is that if you look at the Lenovo Legion series, the Legion series actually surprisingly turns out to be the only one that offers us 2070 around the 1.5 or 1.6 mark. This is back when we had reviewed the Legion Y740, of course. Not sure if the pricing has changed much, but you could check that out. But if you are going to spend that kind of money, I also strongly recommend waiting for the 2070 and 2080 super cards that are coming out. I mean, technically, they should have been out by now, but because of the coronavirus situation, we're stuck. So, okay, let's see. Ooh, Pallav Sethi. Okay, you want a recommendation for a video editing machine and entry level gaming under 50K? Bhai, both मांग रहा है. Okay, so this is video editing is one place where Intel and choice of Intel and AMD does matter. There are a lot of aspects to when you are editing, and then when you finally export that footage. So we'll for now leave all of that aside. But for under 50K, um, Pallav, you're going to be very hard pressed to find the right configuration. I think you would have to end up going with AMD on this one because surprisingly, even though they end up being cheaper, they still are very powerful. Like, I really don't understand why AMD systems are as cheap as they are because once they're specced out properly, then they're insanely good. So look for something like the Tough series from Asus. You could look at the uh, Helios Predator, Helios 300 from Acer. That's a very popular gaming laptop. And of course, a gaming laptop would also serve as a really good editing machine. Uh, Abhinit, best laptop under 70K for gaming. Should a college student take a gaming laptop? Abhinit, so I went to college away from home. So, and I had a gaming laptop because I knew that, I don't have my family around. So, how do I occupy my time? And so, what a lot of us at college did was when we were free, we would have these Halo parties So basically, everybody getting online on Halo and playing. So yes, a gaming laptop can help if you're away from home, living in college, living in a dorm. So there's no harm in getting one, but the only downside to a gaming machine is just think about how much you'll be moving around, like going from one class to the other, and you'll have to lug that 1.5 2 kilo machine around. So just make sure that you can handle that. Um, so best laptop under 70K, again, the Asus TUF series. Now there is the TUF A15 and A17 are going to be launched very soon in India. They've cleared BIS certification. Like I've seen that with my own eyes. So once this lockdown lifts, once this lockdown lifts, you guys can expect AMD based gaming machines to like be out like that. So I recommend waiting because they should be priced really lucratively. Additionally, I'm expecting that there will be a price drop in the older products. So just wait a few weeks is all I would say. Um, okay. Dave Johan, is XPS worth or Pavilion good for college? Dave, which machine are you talking about? XPS 13 or XPS 15? That's going to be a big this thing. But honestly, every time we've reviewed an XPS, it's gotten amazing reviews. Those are machines that are very difficult to find faults with. Of course, the only fault we found in the last two times with the XPS 15 was the i9 9900. No, wait. Yeah, the i9 chip that Dell used was just throttling. So you don't need the i9 variant. Go with the i7, and you should be good. The XPS 13 is just absolutely fabulous. Dell is going to launch the new XPS 13 later this year in India, and this is the one with a 16:10 aspect ratio display. It's got a beautiful body, and it's thinner and lighter than before. So we actually have a video of it on our Digit channel when we cover it at CES. So go check that out. Yeah, XPS 15, no brainer. It's a really good laptop. Then okay, Ashutosh Mishra, best laptop for under 60K for overall use and light gaming. You know, you could go with any of the existing AMD based laptops that cost under 60K for two reasons. One, some of them will come with a discrete GPU, which is great because then you can game on it. But even if they don't, the Vega graphics are actually very adept at handling gaming. Of course, not at the highest frame rates, but medium settings, 720p, you should be fine. In fact, we did a PC build some time ago. One of our squad members, in fact, did a PC build some time ago. A PC build under 35K, running a Ryzen 3 2300, I believe, and no GPU, and we were able to game on it. So all it took was updating the drivers, making sure everything was installed properly. There were no conflicts, and CS:GO, titles like CS:GO just work beautifully well. Uh, Khwaja, why laptops aren't modular? Whew, it's a very good question. Laptops are not modular for the same reason your smartphones aren't. Like, we want thinner and lighter devices, and the only way of making something thinner and lighter is to integrate the components into each other. So with a laptop, there was a point you couldn't get any thinner, and then Apple went ahead and said, you know what, we'll solder the RAM, the storage, everything onto the motherboard itself. And MacBook Pros became noticeably thinner. When the MacBook Air came out without that DVD drive, everybody was like, what, Steve Jobs pulled that out of an envelope, literally. Like, that's how he unveiled it, right? So it's a pretty it that's the thing. But if you want modular, there are actually companies who do make them. Dell has the Area 51M. Yes, that's modular. You can swap out components as and when you need. There's also an Indian company called Azom, based out of Bombay, I believe, that makes laptops which are fully user upgradable, like from processor is definitely upgradable. GPU, I'm not sure. I have to double check, but everything within that. And I checked, and they were also considering working on how to upgrade the display if need be. So pretty impressive. Uh, mm, 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 mm. Mohammed, you want to join Digit as a writer? Send us your resume, man. That's one of the best ways. Okay, Sambhavya, to which Intel processor can I compare the Ryzen 5 quad-core second-gen processor, and how is this processor for entry-level gaming? Um, so this I'm assuming is the Ryzen 5. Okay, well you could actually compare the Ryzen 5 to like say an Intel i5 easily. And as far as the processor goes, it's not always about the processor itself when it comes to gaming, because a lot of games nowadays don't really tax the CPU as much. So it really comes down to what game you're playing. If you're playing something like MMORPG, then yes, your CPU has to be powerful because it's got a lot of things to draw on the surface. Everything has to be done on the fly, all of that. But if you're playing something like, let's say, Call of Duty or any of the popular shooters or racing games or sports games, they're more GPU heavy. So CPU is just sort of like there to kind of nudge everything along, but the GPU is what does the heavy lifting. So if depending on the genre you're into, you may actually want to focus more on the GPU than the CPU. But to answer your question, I would say the i5 would be a better choice because you're talking about a second gen Ryzen. If you're talking about the current, the third gen that's coming out, my answer would be very different. But between the second gen Ryzen and a comparable Intel i5, I'd say go with the i5. Mm, 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 mm. Satish, best laptop under 70K for 3D game development. Okay. I'm assuming when you say 3D game development, you're talking about developing visual assets, because that'll be completely different from the coding aspect of gaming. So very wildly different requirements. If you're doing 3D modeling, you need a laptop which has a solid GPU, a good processor, and while under 70K you may not get the very best. So it's fine, because as long as you can actually create your model, render times can be long. You can leave the laptop running overnight for your render to complete. It's not a problem. So you can look at anything in the anything from, let's see, to give you specifics, the Asus Tough series is definitely a good choice, as is the Acer Predator Helios 300. That's another very popular laptop. um, there's also, I think, something from MSI. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check. I'll leave that in the comments from MSI. What are your options? But yeah, between Acer and Asus, you've pretty much got yourself covered. Uh, okay, Sandeep. Okay, there we go. Finally, great question. Which laptop should you buy for programming, development, as well as slim with good battery backup and backlit keys? Somebody had actually asked a similar question. They're a student going into BTech and wanted a laptop for their college life. And the question was between choosing between the new MacBook Air or the Asus VivoBook S15. And since you're also looking at programming and development, I would say stick with Windows. If you're okay with the Mac, then just go with the MacBook Air. That's like a no-brainer. Like that thing, the battery on that thing is just insanely impressive. But if you know that you can't work with the Apple ecosystem and you need Windows, then the VivoBook S15 is a really good option. It's something we've reviewed. It's something we can vouch for. Pretty good battery life, about 6.5 to 7 hours. Decent backlighting, so and very light. So and upgradable, user upgradable. Okay, let's see. Oh, Purvish. Okay, what is the safe temperature of laptop while gaming, and also how to keep laptop cool while gaming? Last a few weeks ago, we did a session on choosing the right gaming laptop, and after the live was over, one of the viewers sent me a photo of their cooling pad. So what this guy has done is he's taken eight 120 millimeter PC fans. Okay, taken a PVC pipe, made a PVC pipe bracket, and just strung them all in, and that's his laptop cooling pad, and it is so cool to watch. Like that's a DIY solution. One of the best ways to, yes, keep your laptop cool is of course using a cooling pad. But if you don't want an accessory, here are some tips. One, uh, figure out where the exhaust vents on your laptop are, and when you're using it, make sure they're not blocked. A lot of us tend to just leave the laptop on, our beds with the blanket sort of covering it and things like that. That heat buildup is very dangerous. Like, so you need to make sure the vents are not blocked. In terms of the safe gaming temperature, most Intel CPUs have a T junction max of 100 degrees. So as long as they're below 100, you're fine. Like, they can hit 94, 95. It's not the end of the world. So yeah. Dave Chauhan, Mac or Windows for coding in college? Honest answer, I'm not sure because I'm not a programmer. But if you are wanting to develop apps for the Mac ecosystem, so you have languages like Xcode, Swift, all of that, and they work best on Mac. As if you're looking at more universal applications, game development, things like that, I would assume that Windows is a better platform. But your friends will probably be able to give you a better answer for that. Okay. Best laptop for a computer science student under 60K. Okay, so here's the problem. If I tell you go for um, a Dell Inspiron XYZ, okay, be- then that problem becomes that that laptop may not be available today because when we review stuff, after a certain point of time it becomes unavailable. So we've faced this issue. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Okay, you need to look for these particular specifications. You need a minimum of an i5 or a maximum of an i5. You don't need more than that. Um, Look for 8 gigs of RAM, but it's preferable if it's used or upgradable to 16. Definitely look for an SSD. Prioritize these three things. And the fourth should be, of course, the weight and the slimness of it all. So, if you look at these certain factors, you realize that your choices are actually going to be fairly simple. They're not. It's not like there's a lot of options out there with these specifications, but you'll probably have to choose between four and five. The final decision should be made based on which of those brands give the best service in your specific area. Because look, man, you're going to college, this laptop's going to be your life. If something goes wrong, you need the brand to support you and fix your machine without doing a lot of chick chick. So that should be what decides your final choice between whatever you've got. Okay. uh why Surface Tab and Surface laptops so costly? Because they're wholly imported, and then just yeah, they're fully imported. I honest to God, it's always been a question about why Microsoft prices them so high in India, but it is what it is. Sambhavya Sethi, VivoBook as a college student laptop, I wholeheartedly support it. My only problem with the VivoBook series is that it feels like they're completely made out of plastic. Excuse me. And one drop and maybe you crack the outer shell. So that's a big concern for me. But if you're a careful person, Vivo books are great. Like, I have a few friends who bought the Vivo book based on our reviews and our recommendations, and they're extremely happy with it. And the only thing they've done so far in sort of improving it is upgrading the hard drive to an SSD, because at that time Vivo books came with a hard drive. Now they all come with SSDs, so you can do that. The upgrades are awesome if you want to get into them. So yeah, okay. Now, essentials for college students. When I was talking about that earlier, before all of these questions started pouring in, keyboard is something that you guys should really look for, because at the end of the day, whether you're a coder or just a regular student doing psychology honors or whatever, you'll be doing a lot of typing. That keyboard experience really matters. Battery backup is another thing, and for the battery backup, unfortunately, there is no way for you to test. That's why you have reviews. Read them. They'll help you figure out if the battery backup on the laptop is good or not. Um, they right now the Asus Predator X21. Okay, in India, no, no, not right now. I don't think so. Everything is sort of. It's if it's a new product, there's definitely no way you can get it. Or are you talking about the Acer Predator? I think you're talking about the Acer Predator, not the Asus Predator. I could be wrong. Do clarify. Anyway, um, the other thing, of course, you should look for is just make. Aha, see, Acer Predator. I don't. Think so. Not right now. The X series monitor is not yet. I don't think they're out in India. The new ones, they're not. Um, okay. Ashutosh, will Lenovo S340 be a better choice? It could be, depending on some factors. One, whether you go with the AMD or Intel variant. That's one. Second, you may have to just sort of do some upgrades after you buy the laptop. When we reviewed the machine, I remember our review was not all of. It was not the best. I mean, it was so-so. The laptop was, average, not very impressive, but not a failure. Sorry. I've been saying lightweight, powerful laptop under 60K for machine learning and dual boot. Okay. Machine learning, I think you'll probably have to end up getting external hardware. You'll have to get one of those neural compute stick or something of that sort in order to boost AI and machine learning and neural network tasks. Because computer CPUs and GPUs are not really designed for it. Yes, the RTX GPUs have tensor cores, but that's not what they're designed for. One. Secondly, for laptop under 60K dual boot. Okay, I would say in that case, just wait maybe till this lockdown is over. When the Ryzen and Intel 10th gen laptops are announced, along with their pricing, there will be a lot of shuffling, and you'll have a better chance of getting yourself something that's better value for money then than you would now. So just wait. Uh, Graduate one device on huge data sets, deep learning algorithms for statistical research. Aha, you're using a Dell Precision. Okay. Hmm. Uh, Very interesting question. So the Dell Precision, I do know the series itself is this. It's exactly what they've sort of built this for. In fact, it was yeah. It was last year at Computex where Dell sort of really focused on the Precision series as a workhorse for machine learning, for AI based tasks, for basically helping develop neural networks. So I think from what I know, that your precision upgrading to another precision would be a better option. Just upgrade to something that's a little more powerful, because the more powerful the machine, the longer it'll last you. So that's something very critical. Otherwise, what you could do is you could also look at the Intel Neural Compute Stick, which can do a lot of. Not all neural networks can be trained on it, and it's not efficient for all of them. But you'd probably know that better. The specs are all out there. You'll be able to choose. So maybe you can pair that with your current laptop and sort of make sure that you can do whatever tasks you wanted to get done. But if you're holding a lot of if you're holding huge data sets, not sure how big they are, but you definitely need a laptop with dual drives, so that one SSD, one hard drive, so you have both speed and capacity in one. Okay. Dev Chauhan, you use a Surface Pro 6 and want to upgrade. Suggest you something for editing, gaming, and college use. Get an iPad Pro. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, okay. So you use a Surface Pro 6 and you want something for gaming. Now, um, the Zephyrus GA502 or GU50. Man, I hate how Asus names their laptops. Asus has a Zephyrus series laptop which runs an AMD processor and an NVIDIA GPU and is absolutely phenomenal as a college laptop. Like, it is a little on the pricier side, yes, but it's just wonderful to work with. The keys are great, the performance is really good. But again, Dave, going by what you're saying, I would say wait a month, wait to see what everybody else is going to launch, and then decide. Because see, the Asus laptops are not going anywhere. Even if the G14 comes out, let's say in a week, that'll still be a good option for you. Okay. Now, if you want to go with Intel specifically, not AMD either, um, then again, like, just then you have pick of the litter right now. Any current gaming laptop. So if you could look at, let's say, the Scar 3, if you look at even the Scar 2, you can get a Scar 2 today on Amazon just as easily. Um, Once the lockdown lifts and Asus or any of these OEMs announce their new laptops, the current ones will see a slight price cut. They will. So choose one at that point. It's best. For gaming, if you're looking for something, I would recommend look for something with a 1660 type GPU. If you don't want to go really like high end, and if you don't want to splurge, if you want to be a little more budget conscious, the 1650 Ti is not bad either, but the 1660 is just a slightly better card. And go with the Nitro 5. Ooh, Nitro 5 is coming out with a 10 gen refresh. So it's already been announced. It's not been announced for some time back, but I think it's the coronavirus thing that's got it delayed. So Acer Nitro 5, in fact, you will on the Intel side of things, you can choose all the way up to an i7 and up to a 2070 Super. So great stuff. So you'll have a lot of options in the next, literally in the next within the next month, depending on the lockdown situations, the number of choices you guys are going to have across the board for gaming, for creating, for just like day to day tasks, they're just going to explode. Especially keep an eye out for AMD chips because they're offering insane performance for the buck. So, yeah. Oh, you have an external GP. See, okay, okay. Here's the thing though. Here's something that gets overlooked. You may have an external GPU, but if the processor you're running is like a U series or a Y series, which is what you get in a thin and light laptop, you may find yourself getting bottlenecked. Versus if you have the same, let's say an i5, but with the 8 series chip. 8 series will give you better performance. So just sort of keep that in mind. The only issue is that in Dave, in your case, in that case, you can actually buy any i5 or i7 variant, which is running the lowest GPU because you already have an external GPU, so you're fine. GPU is not your problem, but you still want to make sure that the choice of the processor is right, so that excuse me, so that at least the laptop will last you, a few years. Like Samir was asking many questions ago, he wants a laptop that will at least last him 2 to 3 years at 10 for 1080p 60 fps gaming. So keep ये 2080 Ti को तुम i5 के साथ नहीं पेयर करोगे ना, you go with an i7, then what is this? 2080 तो मेरे पास भी नहीं है. But I hope I've been able to answer all of your questions. The couple of things that I do want to cover about basics for a college laptop is make sure it has an SSD. Hard drives are really slow. On Windows, especially, everything on Windows running on a hard drive is painfully slow, and I've seen so many people go like when they've seen how fast an SSD boots up. So just sort of stick with that SSD. Make sure you have one. Um, Purvesh, what are the uses of Type C port in a laptop? Well, there are a few. A Type C port could be used to carry a video signal, so it could have a mini display port specification built in. Um, it could be used for charging. It could be used for data transfer. It's a multi-purpose port actually. It's really depends on what generation of USB it's wired for. So okay, a Type C port will be wired in specific ways. It could be wired based on USB 3.1 Gen 1 spec or Gen 2 spec or Thunderbolt spec. Depending on which spec it's wired for, it will be capable of doing specific things at specific speeds. So the port may look the same, it will look the same, it's a Type C port, but functionally it could be completely different. So you have to sort of um, dig into the salesman or the specs very finely to figure out what kind of Type C port that is. I hope I've answered your question there. And with that, I am going to take leave. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's live session. Of course, if you have any questions, do write into us. Leave us your questions in the comments of this video, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you guys for watching, and hope you have a lovely day. And stay safe, stay indoors, and social distancing. Don't go out. Stay sane. Bye bye.